Hi, my name is Paul Blackburn, and I'm a realtor in Chicago with Crown Heights Realty. Thank you for watching my video blog. This is going to be my most opinionated and my favorite video blog I've ever done. I have not actually typed out a blog about this topic because, quite frankly, I'd rant on forever. My fingers would fall off. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet, under 10 minutes, and this is about why the real estate market crashed and why we are in the frickin' mess that we are in right now. You'll have to excuse me. I've had a bottle of Chardonnay tonight, and I will try to keep my language to a minimum here. There's a few things that I want to tell you first, just to preface my qualifications. I'm definitely not a PhD in finance, but I do hold a bachelor's degree in finance from Northern Illinois University. I've owned a development company for 4 years and have done condo conversions and luxury restorations throughout Chicago and the neighboring suburbs. I follow the real estate market very well, mainly because I'm a realtor, that's what I do, but the thing I follow most is supply and demand. I believe supply and demand basically not only runs our economy, but more importantly, runs the real estate market, which is what we're going to be talking about right here. There's a whole bunch of different, speculations that you'll probably hear regarding why the real estate market crashed, right? We love to blame the one thing that everyone talks about, and that's what? Subprime loans, subprime mortgages. Everyone blames subprime mortgages. That's why we always blame them, right? Okay. So we blame them because everyone else blames them, right? It's an easy out. We love to blame the banks. We love to blame the executives driving the S-classes, right? Because, well, they're an easy target. They're an easy mark. Blame them for all of our problems. Maybe we can blame Republicans, maybe the Green Party, maybe Democrats. I don't know. Who are we going to blame next? I'm going to blame somebody that most of you probably have not blamed. And I'm going to blame something called the rating agencies. Now, I'm not putting the entire blame on the rating agencies, but I think that they are a sector of blame that has kind of been left out of the media and have been left out of basically what I call bar talk. So when talking about why the markets crashed, they stopped talking about, they have not talked about the rating agencies. And when I mean rating, I mean those who rate bonds. And that's going to be, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, stuff of that nature. So first, let me give you a very brief history lesson here. The interest rates were very low, okay, when subprime loans started to become huge. Subprime loans have existed since the early 90s, but they didn't become huge back then because the banks really did not need to go ahead and to give subprime loans in order to boost their earnings. What happened a few years ago is that interest rates were extremely low, and when interest rates go down, the margins of banks actually decrease. And we like to think that when you have a low interest rate, banks can charge higher margins, but that's not necessarily the case. When you have low interest rates by the Fed, okay, when those rates are low, the banks borrow less money. However, competition becomes more fierce. When this happens, the margins for the banks go down. Now, let's say you're a bank and you want to make 6% on your loan, okay? But everybody else is making, charging 5% on their loan. Why would somebody come to you and borrow at 6% when they can go next door and get it for 5%, right? It doesn't make any sense. So how can you still charge 6%? I'll tell you how. You will charge 6% to somebody that nobody else will give a loan to. Hence, subprime mortgages growing. Now, you can take on so much subprime risk, right? You can say, well, these people are risky borrowers. Maybe I can go ahead and I can, lend out to 5% of my loan portfolio to these risky borrowers. At the end of the day, if all of those people default, okay, I take a write down of 5% of my mortgage assets. Big whoop. Not a huge loss. I'm not the poorhouse. So you decide that I can take on so much risk, right? But wait a minute, what if I could package this loan, make a whole bunch of money on fees, and then sell this loan out to somebody else? What if I could do that? Couldn't I put my risk aside? Couldn't I just pretty much avoid risk altogether? Pass it off to an investment bank, somebody else? Could I do that? Well, you know what? With the invention of MBSs, mortgage-backed securities, they could do that. Banks could do that, and guess what? They did. So basically what happened is they then started to package all of these investment banks, started to package all of these mortgages into something called a mortgage-backed security. And they would then go ahead and they'd sell them off to investment houses. They'd sell them off to various institutions that would go ahead and would use a mortgage-backed security as an investment vehicle. Now, you're thinking, okay, so what's the big deal right now? Someone is still taking on the risk. So why would someone want to take on all that risk? Well, let me ask you a question. If someone told you tomorrow, I want you to go skydiving with me, and I can pretty much give you a rating that would say 99.99% chance you're going to live if you go skydiving, you'd have a, you say, you know what, maybe I will go skydiving tomorrow, okay? But if someone came and told you, you know what, you go skydiving with me, there's going to be about an 80% chance you'll live, 20% chance that you won't live. Do you think you'll still go skydiving tomorrow? You probably wouldn't. I know I wouldn't with those odds. But you did decide to go skydiving when the odds were virtually 100% that you would live, right? Because it would kind of be a fun rush. You'd have a lot of enjoyment. Well, what if somebody told you that they can offer you an investment that was extremely safe? An extremely safe investment, let's say something we call AAA rated. And this investment would give you abnormal returns. Returns that may give you 6% when the whole market is at 4%. Wouldn't that sound kind of cool? Wow, I can get an extra 2% return when everyone else is getting 4% and have the same exact risk? Wait a minute. That has to be a lie. No, it's not a lie. The top rating agencies in the country are telling me that the risk is essentially the same. The risk is AAA. This is investment grade. This is perfection. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of this stuff. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of mortgage-backed securities. I can make a couple extra percent. This is great. This is phenomenal. And guess what the banks end up doing? The banks say, oh my God, these people are eating this crap up. They're eating up this shit. I can loan out more money, more subprime loans. Hell, we don't even need documentation. We'll do no-doc loans. And when I mean no-doc loans, I don't even mean stated income. We will give you money. As long as you have good credit and 20% down, I don't care if you don't have a job. I don't care if you live in a box. I don't care if you're in a freaking prison. I don't care if your name is Ruffy and you're just a dog, golden retriever. We'll give you a loan. Why? Because I can package it up, make some money on fees, and hell, I can ship that thing off to somebody else who's going to take on that risk. Because guess what? This rating agency over here is saying there is no risk. The risk is virtually nothing. The risk is the same as an investment grade bond that you've always been purchasing. So what does this do? Does this create artificial demand? Yes, it does. And it creates an artificial demand because the risk was not being accounted for. When you don't properly account for risk, you have what I would call a euphoric action. You have risk that's like a euphoria. People don't know what they're actually getting. They're on a high because what they're getting is abnormal to the market. It doesn't make sense, but they don't care because to them, there is no added risk because they're being told everything is fine. So when Moody's comes out and when Standard & Poor's comes out and they say a bond is rated AAA just because of the way the bond is trenched or just because of the way things are paid off within that mortgage-backed security, and then within that mortgage-backed security you have a whole bunch of crap subprime loans to people who could not afford their mortgages, and then you go and you say they're AAA. You want to know what really caused this market crash? I blame them. Think about it. Only makes sense. At the end of the day, there's always an appetite for risk. There's always an appetite for high-risk investments. But that appetite is going to be limited. No one's going to go out there and is going to go ahead and eat all that stuff up. You go to a bar and you do 20 shots, you're going to get yourself sick. But does that mean that all shots are bad? No, you can have one or two and you'll be fine. You'll enjoy yourself and you can drive home. The idea here is the same idea that you talk about when you're trying to lose weight. Everything in moderation. Let's do everything in moderation. That's what needs to happen. Moody's, Standard & Poor's, I blame you. Let's put you in front of freaking Congress and give your explanation to this. Give your explanation to the Wall Street Journal. Recently, however, things have changed. That doesn't matter anymore. We don't care about the rating agencies because there are no subprime loans. We don't even give loans to investors anymore at decent rates like we used to. So what have we done? We've contracted demand and we've increased supply and we've screwed things up. The laws of supply and demand are always going to reign true. Let's look at them, let's step back, let's put all this bullshit aside, set aside all this complex mathematics, look at basic math and say, you know what? We screwed up and this is why.